Over 90% of all corn and soybeans grown in the United States are GMOs. GMOs, or genetically modified organisms, have been growing in the U.S. since the 90s. Synthesized to improve crop growth or quality, there have been many GMOs approved for production and consumption over the last 2 decades. Yet around 60 to 70% of American consumers actively avoid GMOs, citing personal health, environmental health, and animal health as main concerns. And so, many people have different answers to the question, how should we utilize GMOs in the food industry? Bioengineers create GMOs to give an organism a beneficial trait. These traits might give resistance to drought, herbicides, or insects. They could enhance the product, making it stay fresh for longer, or even give it additional nutritional value. So how are they created? Scientists must first identify the gene that produces the desired trait. Then they must find an organism that already produces the desired gene in their genetic material. Once found, the gene is copied and inserted into the crop they wish to alter. This crop is then grown in laboratory conditions to ensure it possesses the desired trait. After laboratory tests come greenhouse and small field tests, causing this process to take as long as several years. Despite this widespread adoption of GMO crops in our grocery stores, American consumers have deep concerns. An estimated 60 to 70% of all Americans actively avoid GMOs, and 85% of those do so out of personal health concerns. So why do Americans feel so unsure? Well, according to Jason Lusk of Oklahoma State University, the issue has to do with our feelings towards the unknown. It's something that seems a little unnatural, and there's a psychological tendency to desire naturalness in food and avoid some forms of novelty in food. It's not necessarily that people have a strong innate aversion to GMOs per se, so much as they have a negative reaction to something that seems like an additive or unusual. Regarding the safety of GMOs, the scientific consensus is that there have been no correlation found between GMOs and potential health risks. At least the actual process of creating a GMO is not inherently dangerous. Scientists want to make clear how much research goes into each product, which is tested for years of effectiveness and safety. The method of genetic engineering seems foreign, but scientists argue that we have actually been genetically modifying organisms for thousands of years. Many of our familiar fruits and vegetables were once smaller, had poor yields, tasted worse, and could even be toxic. But over time, farmers selectively bred crops to create the foods that are in our grocery stores today. From a scientist's point of view, this selective breeding process is no more natural than inserting a gene manually. So why do scientists want to create these GMOs? Well, scientists look for ways to improve the food for the consumer as well as the farmer's convenience. For example, the Flavor Saver tomato that saw a brief appearance in 1994 stayed fresh for just a bit longer. GMOs like golden rice are meant to supplement vitamin A for malnourished populations. Scientists believe that by denying these benefits of GMOs means denying their scientific method and their efforts. At this moment, scientists continue to study genetic engineering, seeking to produce more genetically modified products. Certain government administrations are in charge of maintaining the standards of GMOs. Each department has a different role in the regulation of GMOs, as the Food and Drug Administration is responsible for maintaining the standards of GMOs. The Environmental Protection Agency regulates issues with pesticides. The United States Department of Agriculture focuses more on the protection of plants and animals. These regulators have few rules regarding GMOs as a whole. Instead, they evaluate case by case. In 2016, the National Bee Disclosure Act was published and the labeling of GMOs was changed. Starting in 2022, the law has been to label products that have been genetically modified with bioengineered. Since many foods are made of different ingredients, regulators have set the threshold to 5% GMO to constitute bioengineered. As government regulators evaluate GMO products, they try their best to minimize possible harm of unsafe produce. For farmers, GMOs can be life-saving. Many GMOs are developed specifically to improve crop yield, and in some cases, a GMO can save an industry. In the 1990s, a disease called the ring spot virus wiped out almost all of Hawaii's papaya plantations. A GMO papaya resistant to the virus was developed by inserting part of the virus gene into the papaya's genetic code. It was a sort of vaccination that saved the industry. Kamiya of Kamiya Gold Incorporated expresses gratitude towards the development. Without GMO technology, there would be no papaya business, and I wouldn't be out here farming. The benefits don't stop with papaya farming, however. Farmers from all across the world use genetically modified crops, and these GMOs can be crafted with insect and herbicide resistance to help farmers ensure greater crop yields. As profit margins in the farming industry are often razor thin, the difference can save businesses. Another group of farmers uses genetically modified canola, resistant to herbicides. They can spray herbicide on the field without damaging their crop, further improving their yield. In their case, using genetically modified crops allows them to practice more sustainable farming practices. And an example of this is conservation tillage, which leaves more water and nutrients in the soil. They can also reduce soil erosion, protect the soil quality, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Despite advantages felt by farmers, many are still against GMOs, and for a plethora of reasons. You're probably familiar with a certain label on products at the grocery store, a butterfly and green checkmark stating non-GMO certified. The organization behind this is the Non-GMO Project, a non-profit organization. Their mission statement is dedicated to building and protecting a non-GMO food supply. They believe in the right for everyone to decide whether they want to consume GMO products and the right to access non-GMO food options. Just as we give kosher and halal options to customers, they believe that consumers should have the right to a non-GMO diet. This is not the only reason that many are against GMOs. Some non-GMO activists and consumers are opposed to the idea of changing the original structure of the organisms. There is this idea of sanctity of nature that many believe should not be touched by bioengineers. Some believe that when genes are transferred among species, unnatural characteristics of source organisms will appear in the modified organisms. For example, if a part of fish DNA was used to create GMO apples, they'll assume that these apples will have the taste of fish. Another major resistance to GMOs stems from environmental concerns. GMO products such as Roundup Ready corn allow farmers to use much larger amounts of pesticide on crop in order to ensure a maximum harvest. This in turn can have a massive impact on the environment as pesticides leach into groundwater or nearby waterways. In summary, the view of non-GMO activists vary. Many believe in the moral obligation to leave organisms alone. Many believe that the benefits of GMOs do not outweigh the environmental costs. Many others, such as the Non-GMO Project, believe in creating a non-GMO supply chain in order to preserve the consumer's right not to consume GMOs.
Think about when we go to the grocery store. On its shelves, we see amazingly exotic produce, papayas that should be dead from disease, tomatoes that stay fresh, and vitamin A supplementing rice. The resilience and the nutrition of these products could feed a whole army. No, a whole nation. But some consumers think that they can be unnatural, unhealthy, and unfit for human consumption. Should we be filling the stores with purple tomatoes and unnaturally sweet fruits? Science marches forward with new developments every day. Shoppers and families scan the aisles and labels for healthy products that can sustain their livelihoods. Regulators scramble to mark down what genetically modified really means. In this cacophony of voices, questions arise that beg to be answered. Where do we draw the line with these products? Should we strive for perfect foods? Can we live in a world without GMOs?